Hello, fellow recovering, I don't know what we would call this. Those of you who are recovering, surviving borderline, a relationship with a borderline. So that's what this channel is about. It's about helping non-borderlines survive and recover if they are currently in a relationship with a borderline or have gotten out of one. And in this case, we're talking about borderlines who have not sought out any kind of therapy. And I imagine it's probably true even for some who are in therapy, because I would imagine it would probably take years of committed therapy before a true borderline is going to even be able to have a semblance of a normal relationship. It's a very serious mental illness. It's the first thing you need to understand. This is a very serious mental illness. And as much as that sounds like a judgment, it's actually a much kinder thing to do, to understand that they're ill. Because otherwise, then they're just really horrible people. And they're not. There's nothing wrong with their soul. They've got beautiful souls in there. They're very sick. They're not capable. You need to understand, they are not capable of having a real romantic relationship. It's like asking, it's like asking a dog to play chess. A dog may love you and may want to please you, but it can't play chess. It doesn't even have the thumbs to pick up the chess piece. Borderlines do not have the ability to have a relationship. They just don't. And again, I'm only talking about from my experience with the woman I was with, now that time has passed. She was as borderline as somebody could get. I mean, it just became so clearly apparent. Just so borderline. So what did I do? What have I done? I'm doing much better, by the way. I'm doing extremely well. I don't have any illusions anymore. I barely think about her. And when I do, like today I thought about her, and sometimes I think about, what if she were to contact me, which I can't imagine she ever would, but even if she tried, it would be very difficult because I've blocked all possible ways that I can block communication. But if she were to get a hold of me, what would I do to try and create? I mean, there's just nothing in it for me anymore. It's just so abundantly clear that here's the main thing that's been abundantly clear. When I was deep into it, I thought I was in love. Looking back on it, there was no relationship ever. The times where I thought I was having some deep emotional connection and we had this deep connection, as I look back on it now, there was no real connection. She was never there for me in any way, ever. There was never a point when she was there for me in any real way. The closest that she came to being there for me was all talk. There was in the beginning, of course, where she was idealizing me. She was spouting and saying all of the right things that you would want somebody to say about being there for you. But it was the promise of being there. It was things she said she was going to do for me. And in the beginning, there was little things like her giving me foot massages and cooking me food and those kinds of things. But those were things that were happening in the moment. And for a normal person, a non-borderline, it would represent behavior that's going to continue on in the future. So it was easy for me to go, wow, she's really supportive. But in terms of her following through, now that I've been out of it for months now, she didn't follow through on any. Zero. There's not one promise that she made in terms of promising about something in the future that she followed through on. Not one, zero. Every single one of those promises were never fulfilled. In many cases, she did the exact opposite of what she claimed she was going to do. And so I want to just ask you to take a look at that. You know, if you're out of the relationship, or maybe you're in it, I don't know. Just, put your intense feelings aside for a moment and look at it practically and say, has this person been there for me in any real way? I'm thinking about it now. I can only think of one thing that she did. There was one thing that she did for me which actually took some effort on her part. And that was, of course, I was going to move down, 3 hours away, and I was looking for a house to rent for us. And and I couldn't go down there, and there was an open house. And I asked her, would she go down and look at the house for me? And so she did. She drove 10 minutes from her place to look at the house and called me on the phone and told me what it looked like inside. That's the only thing. That's honestly the only thing that I can say that she actually did for me. Nothing else. The rest of it was me doing for her. And if you've been with a borderline, you know that there's all different phases of it. There's the beginning phase when they love you and they treat you like you're the most amazing person in the world. Now, if you're like me, I responded with just loving her, with everything that I had, and complimenting her and wooing her and telling her how amazing and beautiful and how much I loved her, and supporting her, like buying her stuff, like really expensive stuff like computers, and then of course the splitting starts to happen, and she's breaking up with me and getting back together with me every day for weeks on end. And then there was 3 weeks where she couldn't get out of bed, and I was going there and bringing food to her and taking care of her. And then there was all the craziness involved in that, and her promising, I'm just going to stay with you for 3 months and I won't break up with you. And then she came out of that and didn't remember anything. Didn't remember an entire whole 3 weeks. Remembered nothing. And here there was this intense experience of me giving and giving and giving, which in a normal relationship means, creates a bond. Normally when you give to somebody like that, over and over and over, they feel some kind of responsibility toward you. They feel some kind of safety and some kind of love. They feel something. Nothing. She remembered nothing of it. And when I brought her to her attention things she did and said, she would go, yeah, I don't remember. I'm like, so all of those promises, you promised me this, 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 and this. She's like, I don't remember. I mean, and that was literally one of the faces. I don't remember. No responsibility. Zero responsibility for anything that they say and do. Zero. And these are the people you want to be with? Think about that for a moment. You wouldn't put up with this behavior in yourself. Neither would they. They wouldn't, if you don't follow through with what you say you're going to do, and if you don't show up and meet their demands, you're out. Like that. But they don't put up with, they don't follow through with anything that they say or do, and you want to keep going back to them? You actually miss them? If somebody else you weren't in a romantic relationship with, if somebody else were to treat you like that, you would say, my God, that person is my worst enemy. I want nothing to do with them. But because of the craziness of the codependence that we have, we just have to go back, and it'll be different next time. And, it was okay because she was this or he was that. And, they really do love me. It's just they're having a hard time. It's craziness. There's no relationship there. Wake up to the fact there's no relationship there. So what has helped me? What has helped me is that, before I met her, I've been in recovery in a 12-step program for almost 40 years. So I'm well versed in how to work the 12 steps. I'm well versed in addiction and, working through my addiction and healing from that. This was a new one that caught me off guard, and I was susceptible to it because I had lost my fiance, who was my true love, and I lost her. She passed away, and so I had this emptiness inside of me, and this woman came along and for the first few weeks filled all the right gaps in me, and I was deluded by my own need and my own pain to project my old feelings onto her. And that's what kept me going, was the hope that she would turn into that person she originally presented herself to be. So I did my work. I did an inventory on my fourth step. If you know what a fourth step is, I did a fourth step on that. And I reached out to, I still have a therapist that I talk to, and I have mentors. And I reached out to somebody that I respected, and I said, I need your help. I need to talk to somebody. And these were both people who had the ability to mirror back to me, my addiction, my delusion. And I needed that. And of course, I had enough knowledge in me to know that that's what was going on. And so, having done that, the obsession started to leave. And most importantly, I started seeing that the relationship was not a relationship, that there was nothing, that was literally nothing to it. Nothing. And so with that in mind, I was able to let go. It doesn't mean that it happened overnight, but it started happening fairly quickly. And the other thing I did is I started dating. I started going out and seeking out, casual dating. I'm not in any kind of long-term relationship, but I just needed that. I needed to be with women, and I needed to have sex and have fun and have somebody, be normal with me and loving and even in just a casual way. And that was really healing and is continuing to be healing. And I'm kind of in the space now where I don't even want anything, committed and permanent. I just want to, keep things light and fun. And so that's been really healthy for me as well. Also, I poured myself into my work. This channel that I'm doing here for recovery from BPD Break Up is really something I did just for that. I don't really have any long-term goals for this channel. My real channel is this one, thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, thunderwizard, DOTCOM. Feel free to go there if you want, see what that website is all about. But so I still get notifications on this channel about people finding it for the first time, and it's, on the one hand, it's kind of sad that there isn't a resource out there for people, because we can go on and watch the videos from psychologists who are talking about borderline personality disorder from a clinical perspective, but it's so clinical and dry that you don't really hear the personal interaction, and it doesn't really give any healing. I think one of the things that would be really helpful is if somebody created like a 12-step group for survivors of borderline personality disorder relationships. I mean, really, I think it would be really helpful, because you've got to be with somebody who's gone through it to know what you're going through. Because it's the most unique experience I've ever had. Although it is definitely an addiction and it follows the exact rules of any other addiction in terms of relationships, the craziness of it and there's just this bafflement, befuddlement, because they are insane, because they do have a mental illness. Their behavior doesn't even follow any norms. Even if you're with somebody that, let's say, has, depression or anger or is an addict or an alcoholic, and there's all kinds of craziness in those codependent relationships, but they still follow some kind of semblance of, that you can follow. There's no rhyme or reason to the behavior of the borderline, unless what you realize is this. If you can realize this one thing, which if you're in the addiction, you probably won't be able to very easily. But if you can realize this one core issue about the borderline, it may give you the ability to muster up the strength to go seek some help. And that is that what they want most is intimacy, emotional intimacy, because they never had it as infants. They never had the emotional intimacy and bonding. They want bonding and intimacy. But it is the bonding and the intimacy that is the very thing that forces them to split on you, to rage on you, to accuse you of being horrible and ghosting you. And if you can understand that, if you look back, if your relationship was anything like mine, what you will find is that you are seeking to create a bond through intimacy, because that's how we humans create relationships. The intimacy creates a bond, and that psychological bond holds us going forward. It holds us together going forward. So you're following the instinct that is built into you as a human. It's built into our DNA. And so you will constantly be driven to make that connection. Now, on their end, they crave the intimacy. In fact, they get off on it, like people get off on drugs. They're not seeing you. You need to understand this. They don't see you as a person when they are connecting with the intimacy. All they're doing is feeling the feelings, just like an infant. The infant can't see you and understand you and have empathy for you. They're just experiencing the love or whatever it is they're getting from the parent. So they're getting that from you and getting off on it. The part of their brain that is adult is talking to you like they know what's happening, making you believe like they see and understand what is happening, but they don't. And so they will manipulate out of you the intimacy and the your desire to create a bond, and they feed off of it like a succubus. Now they're not trying to do anything to you. In their mind, it's probably they have every intention of following through and creating the beautiful, magical relationship you're both talking about. But what will happen is the moment that you leave or hang up the phone, or the moment that it starts getting really intense, you'll say or do something. It'll be right on the edge. It'll be like, I love you, you're the most, and then you will say something and it will strike them, and then they will react, because the very thing that they want is the thing that is going to be the trigger for them to get paranoid and become full of fear and reject you. It is not a question of if, it's a question of when. And this is the insidious part of the relationship, is that the more you get to know them, just like any drug, they have to dig deeper to bring out more intimacy and bond from you. And the deeper that they connect with you, the faster that they have to run away from you. They can't help it. If you can understand that it is that is their disease. The intimacy drives them away, and the intimacy is what they want. That's what's going to create the cycle in you. If you can see that, then you can, probably not in the middle of it, but I mean, it would be great if in the middle of it, oh my God, she's pulling me into one of those intimacy moments. This is all a setup, and stop yourself and walk away from the right. But more than likely, it's going to have to be after the fact, after he or she has split on you, that you have to go, yep, I did it again. I walked right into that trap, and get out and never go back. Thinking about it now, months later, sitting here now, I don't know what would happen if, somehow she were to get a hold of me. But if she were to get a hold of me and she were to say, I want to get back together, In my fantasy right now, what I would say is, yeah, I'll get back together with you. After you've been in therapy twice a week with a psychologist who deals exclusively with borderline personality disorder, after you've been working on that for over a year, then give me a call. Until then, I can't have any contact with you. And even as I say that, I know that that would still be not a very healthy thing to do. The best thing to do would be to say, I'm sorry, there's been so much damage done that I can't have any in this lifetime. Which is actually what I said to her when, of course, she was breaking up with me. And I said to her, you're right. This is it in this lifetime. And I said, please do me a favor. And I wasn't yelling or screaming. I was just in an awareness that, yeah, this was never going to be okay. And if she ever got back to me, that I might not have the ability to reject her. So I took the ability in the moment and I used it to tell her, please don't ever contact me again. You know, you have harmed me more than anybody in my entire life. And I cannot have any more contact with you in this lifetime. So please lose my phone number, lose my email, lose my Facebook, lose every contact you have and block me, because I'm going to do the same. And that I think was probably the best thing I ever said. Of course, I only said it when she was breaking up with me. I wouldn't have been able to do it if she was wanting to get back together. I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I feel for all of you. But there is a way to live life. I'm very comfortable and happy now. In fact, I have a feeling, that I don't even need to be with somebody. But what I did was I went to 12-step meetings, for my other 12-step work, and I did the 12 steps on my need, my addiction to her. I worked on that. I talked to my therapist multiple times, continue to talk to him, and I found a mentor, somebody who I knew had the ability to be honest with me again in another 12-step group, and I said, I need help. So if you really want to recover, I strongly recommend going to Codependence Anonymous. Go to Codependence Anonymous. That is probably, that's going to be a really good place to go. And get help from a therapist, because if you have been in a relationship with a borderline, you are an addict and you are a codependent. Especially for those of you years later. If you're still thinking about them and you're still in pain and you're still in hell, it means that the addiction is still there and you're waiting for them to call you back. You're still, you have no defense. If they were to get a hold of you, you'd be right back into it. And they would just tear you apart. They'd feast on your soul and you would let them do it. Anyway, so that's my update now. How long has it been? I don't know. It's been months now. So I don't know how many more videos I'm going to make, but if I make more videos, I'll be back. All right, that's it.